you know.
Start it up.
All right, here we are, about to expose Mayor Pete. I was kind of inspired to do this by seeing these Pete supporters, but they never offer any real reason to why they support him. But I'm here to give you a reason why you shouldn't support him, why he can't be trusted.
Yes.
Especially if you belong to the African American community. All right. So it starts off with us. We're gonna talk about basically a couple of stories and exposing more the police department under Mayor Pete in the city of South Bend, Indiana.
Yes.
All right, so we'll start off talking about a case where a 16-year-old by the name of Jihad Vasquez was found hung off an electrical tower in April 14th of 2011. So what happened there? The coroner Chuck Hurley, when they found his body hanging from that electrical tower, the coroner with no medical training announced on the scene that without any forensic examination, he called it a suicide on the scene. What happened then is that they cremated the body without an autopsy, so they didn't even automatically ruled out a homicide or any other thing that could have happened. So the story goes that Jihad was supposed to be spending the night at his friend's house, so he had taken a blanket and some other belongings to sleep over, but he didn't sleep over, and then they found him 2 days later hanging from that electrical tower. So they automatically ruled it a suicide, but his mother had a reason to believe that it wasn't that. The reason being that his last day at school, he had just gotten into like an altercation with another kid who had taken his phone, and the other kid, according to his friend, was threatening Jihad and hit him with some N words, and basically he ended up getting suspended, and that was the last time he went to school. So when they found him, also in his book bag, his belongings were missing. So his school ID was missing. He had $20 cash that was gone. A ring was also missing. The bed sheet that was used that he was hung off of, he only used part of it, so the rest of it was missing as well, and also an iPod with Tupac on it.
Hold on, let me just quickly. You said that he, as in the person who killed, or
What do you mean?
because you said he had only used the bed sheet, and then it was part of it.
I meant not him, but
Yeah,
the overall, in general, the bed sheet was only.
it was torn apart and then used a piece
Yeah,
for
exactly.
the hanging.
So part of it was used however he was hung, and the rest was missing.
Yes.
So the point of that is saying when there's missing belongings, there should be reason to be like, what happened to them? It could have been before or after. It doesn't necessarily mean that he killed himself,
Yeah.
but it's just like we should look into it more
Yes.
and rule out
Try
out
out.
everything else.
Yeah, every possibility.
Instead of just from the gun shooting from the hip and
That
calling
was a
it
suicide. Yeah.
from the jump, calling it a suicide.
Yeah.
All right, so it gets a little bit more interesting because his mother, basically, her name is Stephanie Jones, didn't really get a chance to decide whether she wanted to get him cremated or not, or ask for an autopsy. The Indiana's guidelines on autopsy is that the family or next of kin always has the right to order an autopsy. But the police, according to her, never really gave her the opportunity to do so. It says here, and this is all according to TYT's investigates Jonathan Larson. It says here that she says she was ushered into an office where Hanley, that being the funeral salon that she used, right, presented her with a statement of funeral goods and services selected. In other words, a bill. So there on the spot, they drew up the bill for her son's cremation and memorial service. She signed the funeral bill mere minutes after viewing her son in a body bag, and less than 3 hours after his body had been cut down. Okay, so it says here the total bill was $2,566.80. And according to her, she said, I was coerced into getting him cremated. When Hanley, the funeral home, gave me the price list, he told me that the morgue was over 200 miles from here in Kalamazoo, which is a city in Michigan. I felt pressure because I didn't have no money, but he was talking and saying he didn't want me to handle the body. He said it was going to cost $250. Michigan charged $250 to $300 for an autopsy, and I felt pressured because I didn't have no money. So in other words, what that says is that they were trying to pressure her to not getting an autopsy, and her at the moment not even thinking about it. She couldn't afford it, so she just said, "Whatever, we'll cremate him."
Yeah.
Cremating him right away. What that does is doesn't give eliminates the option of an autopsy. So in other words, getting rid of the evidence that the cops could have looked into.
Yeah.
And it's a little sketchy because usually the African or the black community in South Bend, they use another funeral home. And another, again, I'm just speculating that they didn't do that with her. So it's another inconsistency in a way.
Yeah.
Why would they send it to another state? It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
And then pressuring her, after only a few minutes of seeing him, they're already trying to get her to sign and cremate.
For real. It feels a little bit rushed.
Where's the decency of let her
grieve a little bit?
Grieve. They didn't even let her grieve. So
yeah.
But that's neither here or there. So here's where Mayor Pete comes in
the story. Yes.
He wasn't when this happened. He wasn't the mayor yet, but when he was a mayor, she had asked him to look into it, and he gave her a business card, but she would only get the secretary or voicemail, and they never returned her calls. So Pete never returned her calls. The other thing is, the coroner that we had mentioned earlier, Chuck Hurley. Just 5 months after Pete became mayor, he appointed that guy
as police chief.
So, being Mayor Pete, do you think a lady's telling you, about this case, about her son and all that, and the coroner is the one that called it, so because of him, the body is essentially got cremated just because he called it a suicide, and they said there was no foul play, this and that.
And remember, this guy has no medical experience whatsoever.
Exactly. So do you think if I'm Mayor Pete and they're telling me to investigate the guy that I just appointed, you think I'm gonna do it? All right, it's just so bad. Yeah. Which in itself, this shows the integrity of Mayor Pete, or lack thereof, that he doesn't even want to make himself look bad for the principle of doing the right thing. All right, but we'll move on to the other damning stuff in Pete Buttigieg's South Bend's police department. So when he was appointed mayor, when he won, there was an ongoing investigation in his police department conducted with the FBI working with Darryl Boykins, the police chief at that time. So basically, in that investigation, what they found was a lot of by wiretapping or recording a lot of these police officers' phones. They found a bunch of recordings that were racist. Daryl Boykins was being named in a lot of the calls, um, with them basically talking about how they wanted to get rid of him.
Yeah.
And using Mayor Pete and his donors to push Mayor Pete into getting rid of this black police chief.
Yeah.
Right? So one of his calls, uh, you'll hear one of the police officers referring to Mayor Pete as that when that little fucking squirt wins, we'll get rid of Boykins is done. Another call is alleged to be saying it's going to be a fun time when all white people are in charge. There's other reports of them talking about other black police officers getting outed. Let's see. So, and at some point in January 2012, in his first month, Pete Buttigieg learned about this investigation, and 2 months later, from then, he told Boykins to resign. After black South Bend leaders sided with Boykins, Boykins rescinded his resignation, and on March 30th, after all that backlash, Mayor Pete Buttigieg, instead of firing him, demoted him from his position as police chief. Saying because of the recordings and all that. There was somebody else who was fired also because she was involved in this.
Karen de Pape.
And her name is Karen de Pape. Or de Pape. And she was a police employee who heard the recordings, and she had filed a report after hearing that. Hearing those recordings, but she eventually got fired by Mayor Pete. So, and this year, Buttigieg was basically has said that he wants to get to the bottom of it, but he's not sure if he can ask the city to let him hear the tapes. But there's also reports that his lawyer secretly heard the tapes. So there's a lot of suspect things that he's trying to bury those tapes. Because he's named in the tapes, and they talk about using his donors
to get what they want, to achieve their goal that they're trying to achieve, which was to fire the police chief, and
And the way I see it is the real hero is the cop exposing the racism in his police department, and then here comes Mayor Pete to put an end to all that.
Yeah, to do the opposite of the good that they're doing. This guy is so dumb.
And then he wonders why he's polling 0%. Okay, so I'm gonna go on and talk about another police officer who has been accused of doing and saying racist things or showing excessive force towards African American people when they show up to a call. And this guy, of course, was promoted after all that, all these accusations, and we'll talk about what happened after he got promoted. So this guy, I'd rather not say his name.
I say just say it once so people know who you're talking about.
I guess his name is
it's
I erased it, but it was Patrick O'Neal.
Yeah, Patrick O'Neal.
Or Ryan O'Neal. I'm not sure. It's one of those two. Might have been Ryan O'Neal. But I didn't really want to use it just to not give any notoriety to him. But one of the things that this guy has been heard saying was, "Man, I hate seeing that. It makes me sick. That makes me want to throw up." When talking about interracial dating, interracial couples. But one of his partners that work with him said this: "I've been on calls with him, 5 calls, 6 calls, in every call, he either ended up tasing someone or they ended up on the ground. The same source claimed that they told the black woman to leave the scene, and this guy O'Neill tased her in the back, and they had to remove the prongs from her spine. Which is like, that right there blows my mind.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Because she's walking away. That right there indicates she's not being in harm. She's obviously listening to what your orders.
Yeah.
So why would you still tase her in the back?
Yeah, but I wonder like how close he had to be so that the actual prong of the taser can be inserted into your spine. You know how much, dude? Because I know it comes out with a force, but the whole point is to reach over a long distances.
And then this that on its own is one thing, but like she's walking away, bro.
Yeah.
Alright, so the same source also said that another time we had a guy walking who was mentally crazy. He was on something. His mother wanted him back in the house. He went walking down the alley. We caught up with him. O'Neill grabbed him, laid down on him, and started punching. And then he says that I just covered his face up. I put my hand on the guy's head so he couldn't get punched. When do you see a cop blocking another cop from hitting the suspect or the perp, whatever?
Right.
You know, it just goes to show you how
savage this guy is.
Yeah, how excessive he was at the guy working with him or the girl working with him.
Yeah,
was protecting the person that they were there to, the call that they answered was there for.
Yeah.
Also, there's the other court document saying that O'Neill was making inappropriate racial remarks to two other officers in 2008. The main story. So this year, the same guy O'Neill ends up shooting a black suspect to a car that he showed up to. So according to O'Neill, he was responding to a report of possible car break-ins, spotted Logan in a car, which is this guy that he shot, which his name is Eric Logan, and he fired 2 shots when Logan approached him with a knife. The thing is, in this case, O'Neill conveniently did not turn on his body cam, so there's no evidence of how it went down. According to him, he had said that he shot after the guy Logan refused to drop the knife, but there are recordings of him saying, "I'm okay, the guy just threw a knife at me." So that's another thing that is like, did he shoot him because he did legitimately feel like the guy was approaching him and he felt his life being threatened, so he had to shoot? And that would justify it. We don't have the damn camera, the body camera proof. But I did hear there is a recording that it shows him saying that he was okay, the guy just threw a knife at him. So, I mean, logically, I believe, like, if the guy throws a knife at you and you're fine, I'm not going to shoot him at that point. He doesn't have a weapon. Okay. We don't know, after that, we don't know if he ran, which way they... Like, what did the guy do? But to me, logically, if I see he doesn't have a weapon, or he...
Yeah, but listen. If he throws a knife at him, then that right there, look, I'm only trying, because I'm a veteran and I know the escalation of force. We trained for that. So if somebody is throwing a knife at me and I have a gun, I'm gonna shoot him, bro. I'm sorry.
Okay, but if a guy throws a knife at me and then I see he doesn't have shit.
Okay, that I understand.
I'm not going to do anything.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, in the process, when he threw the knife, he might have just shot him in that time. But then again, we don't really know because there's no footage. But if that's the case, if the guy throws a knife at you, and the police, I kind of, the officer is within his right, because that's, first off, a knife is considered a weapon. And what are the chances that he throws a knife and it actually lands? You know, there's a chance for that. With that being said, I think if that was the case, then the officer is within his rights to protect his life, meaning I'm gonna shoot the person. Now we don't know because there's no footage of the incident, and look, I don't really trust this guy because from what I've read and seen and been hearing, this guy's a brute. So I really don't trust this man's credibility. But just trying to, maintain that logic, if it was a different officer, maybe I would give him the benefit of that. But I really don't trust this man.
But regardless,
and of course, and if he doesn't have the knife afterwards and he shoots him, then yeah, that's wrong.
Regardless, though, the body cam should have been on.
I agree.
And it's not like he showed up or it happened out of nowhere. He knew he was going to that call.
Yeah.
I feel like it's protocol. It should be protocol to automatically turn it on, or as soon as you're pulling up, or whatever the case is. I'm sure there's a way. There's something that they have to do.
I think they have to record everything. I don't know why. It is suspect that he wasn't wearing it on.
The other thing that is suspicious is that instead of waiting for an ambulance after he shot Logan, they took him to the hospital in their squad car, which is very suspicious. I've never seen that from any of the reports or news that I've seen, or even like all the TV shows. They never do that, so it's very weird that to have, like they say here, non-medical personnel moving the wounded.
Yeah, that is super weird, dude.
All right,
like why would he go out of his way to try to? You never hear that, dude.
It's very weird.
Yeah.
And so according to the reports, the officer that was with him when this happened,
Nepper?
Yeah, Aaron Nepper, he also has a history of like
being racist
/ incompetent. All right, and let me talk about that. So in 2012, Aaron Nepper and 2 other officers were found by a jury to have violated the rights of Deshaun Franklin, a black teenager who was asleep when they went to his house without permission, tried to handcuff him, and they began punching him, and ultimately used a stun gun on him. All right. The problem with this, aside from the fact that shows completely how completely incompetent they are, or racist, because they had no reason to do anything.
Violated his rights.
And exactly. So this is the shit that pisses me off the most. A jury awarded this guy's family $18, $1 for every constitutional violation that they made.
Yo, these people are pieces of shit. The jury that got elected to do this, they're pieces of shit. These people are scum, Because I bet you if that was them, they would be crying like pieces of crap that they are. Like, oh, why are you guys being so injustice to us? That is so unfair, bro, that they did that to this man.
And then it's a slap to the face that you get treated like shit by wrongfully. They come into your house, beat your ass, and then here's $18 for your troubles.
Oh my goodness.
Like, bro, and then you expect people to wanna trust the police.
Not only that, but the jury is supposed to be your peers, the people that you live around in your community. What makes you think I want to live in a community like that? So terrible.
Alright, so in another case, this guy, Aaron Nepper, and other officers were alerted by a 7-Eleven clerk that a customer had just left driving drunk. Alright, so this guy was calling them to let them know some guy just left drunk so they can stop him. Alright, from doing anything crazy or getting into an accident. So when they showed up, they didn't want to do a report. They didn't want to do anything just because they didn't want to do the paperwork, according to this. So he filed a complaint against him, right? The 7-Eleven clerk, who was mentally disabled, filed a complaint against him because they didn't do anything after he made a report about the drunk guy, or the drunk person. And then their response, according to him, was that they slashed his tires. So he made another report about that, and then they tricked him into swallowing a big amount of cinnamon, which led to hours of him vomiting. And he sued the city, and of course the city settled for $8,000. In another case, the same guy. Of course, this time he was cleared of wrongdoing, but he punched and used a stun gun on a white South Bend resident. The city once again settled for $15,000.
Oh, would you look at that? But fuck, man, this is the shit that I'm talking about, man.
And then, okay, it says here 2 years later, so I'm assuming this is 2008, 2014, 2018. The same guy, Aaron Nepper, got into an altercation with Devin Butler, a black Notre Dame football player. And the thing about that is there was protest because witnesses claimed that Nepper attacked Butler, not the other way around, which was the way that the officer Nepper was saying that he got attacked. But of course, in that situation, the body cams were turned down until after the fight, which is just another red flag of showing that they just don't know how to do their job.
Not that they don't know how to do their job, is that these fuckers know what they're doing. They know that, oh, okay, you know, we're gonna do something that's wrong, so I'm gonna just turn on the camera after everything is done, said and done, so that they don't get caught. So they're not. So there's the evidence is not there to back up whatever the other person is trying to say against them.
Yeah,
these people know what they're doing. They're just pieces of shit. This guy's obviously a racist. That other motherfucker is another racist. This is the people that are in fucking the police department in South Bend. I bet you have these people been fired?
I really doubt it. There's definitely no reports on that.
This is Mayor Pete's town, his city. This is the crap that he has over there. This is why he's polling at 0% with African Americans in this country. Well, not in this country, but in Carolina, in South Carolina, and also back in his town, people don't like him.
Another thing I want to just mention is $8,000, $15,000, $18. We gotta pay that shit. The point is that the taxpayers are paying for their incompetence, their
wrongdoing,
racism, or whatever the fuck you want to call it.
They need to stop that. We need to find. The government needs to figure out a way how to make the police officers themselves. They either need to get a pay cut, or they need to start going into their assets and like, you know, taking away their cars if they can't pay these fines. Because this is bullshit, bro.
Yeah, they need to be held accountable.
Why is it that we have to pay the burden, the people? Why does the people have to pay the burden for these people's incompetence and wrongdoing?
We don't elect our cops, right? So
we should do that. Matter of fact, we should start having elections for police because, yo, obviously the way that some of these police departments do their hiring process, they suck. If they're allowing these people to join the police department, come on, bro. There's something wrong with your recruiting process.
And not even that, man. Police officer does something crazy or whatever, gets accused of anything, paid time off.
Yeah, paid leave.
Paid leave.
They're on paid leave. Administration leave, which they're getting paid, which is bullshit. They shouldn't be getting paid. I'm sorry, bro. If you're being investigated for some wrongdoing that you did, nah, man. But I also understand what's the whole point of that. Because sometimes police officers get caught up in certain investigations that, yeah, sometimes they're not supposed to be in there. You know, there's just some dumb person accusing them of something, you know, that's not. But, you know, there is those cases. But at the same time, man, like, we need to come up with an idea or a balance to, you know, figure out, like, okay, these people
need to be held accountable.
Yeah, they need to be held accountable, pretty much.
That's not what's going on.
Exactly.
And Mayor Pete hasn't really done anything. Yeah, he'll agree that there was definitely excessive force or there was a lot of errors in their process, but nothing has been done. We still fired the other police chief for being the hero, in my opinion.
Yeah.
For uncovering the racism in his police department. And then, you know, the guy's just a hack. There's so many other things which we're gonna go into at another episode.
I wanna say something before we finish up. Also, if you've noticed, mainstream media quiet about this. The only people that I've seen that have been actually talking about this guy's like issues back home are TYT, Kyle Kalinske, who else? Pretty much, you know, the alternative media on YouTube. Like the progressive media on YouTube.
Yeah. Independent media, yeah.
The mainstream media, nope. If anything, they're like fluffing him up and making him look like very presidential-like. The guy's a hack, bro.
They love to say surging in 4th or 5th place.
So stupid.
What about the other people that are, you know?
Yeah, but who gives a fuck about 4th place, 4th and 5th
Exactly,
place?
that's what I'm saying.
You're 4th and 5th, dude. You don't matter. You know? Since when do we praise 4th place?
Yeah.
So dumb. Like, I understand, like, the first 3, you know, top 3, okay. You know, you got your gold, silver, and bronze, but what are we doing the 4th place out of, not titanium, like tin or, you know, something? Come on, man. It's just dumb that these people...
That shows that the mainstream media is really trying to...
push him on to people.
Propel him.
Yeah.
And try to make it seem like he's the progressive candidate when he's really not. Just that alone shows you how not progressive he is.
Next episode, we'll compare him to a true progressive. That'll be the next episode. That'll be Pete Buttigieg versus Bernie Sanders, the real progressive.
Yeah. Then we'll keep on exposing him to keep y'all informed and show you why he's not the candidate that you think he is.
Exactly.
He's another Obama, change on the outside, continuity on the inside, as Cenk says.
Yes, quoting Cenk Uygur. Thank you for joining us. Till next time.